Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the vlog. So the first thing that you want to do in order to lose stubborn belly fat is you want to start off by going to the grocery store. That's how you want to start off if your goal is to lose stubborn belly fat. Now, what's not talked about is that stubborn belly fat really comes from losing overall body fat. So you can't necessarily spot reduce. What you can do, though, is you can lose overall weight and try to focus on keeping muscle around and losing body fat. Let's jump into it. I'm gonna show you guys a couple of things that I usually buy that can help with starting the dieting process. All right, so the first thing that I typically start off with when starting any diet is making sure my protein is set. So right now I eat about 250 grams of protein per day. And my main choices as far as meat goes are gonna be chicken thighs and chicken breasts. So I'll show you guys why I do both. So when you look at chicken breasts versus chicken thighs, the difference is pretty much gonna be in the fat content. So chicken breasts, this set of chicken breasts has only 1 gram of fat per serving. Hard to see, but it's 1 gram of fat per serving, but there's a total of 26 grams of protein. So every 4 ounces of this chicken breast, you're only getting 1 gram of fat and 26 ounces of protein, no carbs. But on the chicken thighs, you're gonna get a little bit more fat. This label, for some odd reason, has all of their chicken on here from this company, so that's why I'm looking at these different ones. This one's the chicken thigh one. It's got 4.5 grams of fat per serving, but only 22 grams of protein. Because of the fat in it, it makes it easier to eat, and overall, it just tastes better. Chicken breast, on the other hand, a little more dry. You know, if you think about like Thanksgiving dinner or something like that, eating turkey breasts, you typically hear them referred to as white meat and dark meat. The dark meat is a little bit better. So anyways, so when I go grocery shopping, to make sure that I'm shopping most efficiently, I try to get a little bit of a variety of both. And typically the way I structure it for myself is, I know that for dinner, I like eating a little bit higher of calories, so I'll eat chicken thighs for dinner. But for lunch, I'm not so much of a stickler about what I have for lunch. The only goal that I really have for lunch is to make sure I get my protein in, along with my carbs and my fats. But I'll usually go with chicken breast for lunch. So the next thing I want to show you guys is carb sources. Those are really important. So right now in my cart, I got basmati rice, I have noodles, potatoes, and I actually have this teriyaki sauce. So my carb sources mostly come from these items, and then I'll use condiments at some point. Typically my lunches, like I said, when I eat chicken breast, I flavor it with teriyaki sauce. So I usually eat like chicken and rice for lunch. Typical bodybuilder meal, right? The other thing that I get is I buy a decent amount of Dave's Killer Bread because, not why you guys would think, not because of the low carb count, but the real reason that I buy Dave's Killer Bread is because my daughter is actually highly allergic to dairy. So whenever I buy bread, I try to buy bread that doesn't have milk in it. And that's something that a lot of people don't really know, is that a lot of bread has tons of milk in it. So when I buy Dave's Killer Bread, no milk in it, it's pretty much vegan bread. And you can get it as the full-size regular organic bread, but you can also get it in the thin sliced bread, which is somewhere in here, right here. Dave's Killer Bread, thin sliced. So the amount of carbs that it has per serving is way less than what you would see of like your normal slice of bread. So this one has 23 grams of carbs per serving. This is your normal bread. The thin slice only has 13 grams of carbs per serving, and there's even less fat in it. 1.5 grams of fat, 3 grams of fat in this one. And you might say like, oh, okay, because it's literally just half the size. Yes, it is kinda, right? Kinda half the size. No, it's a little bit bigger than half. The volume that you're getting with the foods are gonna feel kind of similar. So if you make a sandwich with this bread versus making a sandwich with this bread, you're not really gonna be able to tell the difference, but you're getting almost half the calories with this bread than you are with this bread. So that's something that, you know, a lot of people don't really realize. All right, guys, so my cart is pretty much full. So I actually grabbed a few more protein sources. I like eating these Quest protein chips as a quick snack to get some protein in throughout the day. I also ate these protein bars. A couple other sources I got, egg whites. If you're not familiar, egg whites are 100% protein, nothing else. As I said, I got the Dave's Killer Bread. Something else I picked up were these tortilla wraps. Now, the good thing about these tortilla wraps is these are actually pretty high in fiber. Oh, I didn't get the high fiber one. That's all right. So typically I'll get the carb counter tortilla wraps, which are higher in fiber. So I'll go swap these out in just a second. Getting enough fiber in your diet is a pretty important thing. So I generally try to shoot between 20 to 35 grams of fiber per day, but that way so that I focus on my micronutrients as well, and I get my fiber sources from things like these tortilla wraps. I'll also eat fruits and vegetables. I don't have as many in my cart right now. I have a few at home, so I'll be using those. One last thing that I really wanted to dive into is my fat content and what I actually do as far as getting fats in my diet. So your 3 macronutrients: protein, carbs, and fats. I actually don't just grocery shop for fats. If I were to grocery shop for fats, the only thing that I would add to this that I already have is maybe olive oil, but I don't even really use it that much. The reason being is when you look at some of these different sources, they already do contain fat within them. So it's very hard to grocery shop to the point where you can only get something that's solely protein or only get something that's solely carb. But if you want to think of it as more like protein dominant, carbohydrate dominant, fat dominant, based upon most of the sources that I use and eat for food on a day-to-day basis, that makes up my entire fat count. So I only eat about 60 grams of fat a day. Just to give you a little bit of frame of reference, if you're not familiar with macro or calorie counting, one Five Guys burger is 52 grams of fat. So for my entire day, the amount of fat that I have in my diet is just a little bit more than a Five Guys burger. You don't need that much fat in your diet. You really only need about 20 to 30% of your total calories to be made up of dietary fat. And for me, where my calories are right now, about 2,700, I'm in a mini cut, that's all I need. 60 grams of fat a day makes up that 20 to 30%. Just again, wanted to show you guys what it would look like to go on a typical grocery haul with me and how you can shop by macronutrient. And let's go ahead and talk about the main crux of this video. I alluded to it earlier. You basically want to make sure that you're controlling all of your calories and that you're aware of all of your macronutrients. When you're aware of all your macronutrients, you're aware of all of your calories by default. Your calories are made up of macros being macronutrients. To lose body fat, you need to be eating less calories than the energy you're putting out on a day-by-day basis. So whether you're walking, working out, doing anything where you're moving your body, if you burn more calories day by day than the food that you eat, you're gonna be in what's called a deficit. When you're in a deficit, you have no choice but to start losing weight over a period of time. Might not happen right away, might not be that you notice that much in the first week, maybe even not in the second week, but by the time you get into the third and fourth weeks, if you're in a consistent deficit, you'll start to lose weight. Most people start to get into a deficit, and what they do is they'll go eat out and they'll estimate how many calories they're getting, and they tend to be way off because we can't know what's in what we're eating unless we are actually making the things ourselves. Once you're in that deficit, you should start to lose weight, and if you specifically want to lose body fat, you have to make sure that you're doing what I'm doing, keeping a high protein diet. The layman's way of explaining this: the more weight that you lose, the more you feed your muscles by eating protein and you work out, things of that sort, the more the muscle that you currently have is gonna stay there, okay? You're not necessarily just gonna start gaining a whole bunch of muscle out of the blue. If you're newer to lifting, or if you haven't been doing it for very long, you might gain a little bit. The more body fat that you lose, the higher protein of the diet that you have, the more your muscle is apparent, the leaner you become. And that's what you want if your goal is to lose stubborn belly fat, okay? Losing stubborn belly fat, again, is all about just losing body fat overall. You need to be lean, and we all lean out in different areas at different times. You can't try to lean out in your midsection specifically versus leaning out in your shoulders or your glutes. It just happens to all of us depending on how big of a deficit that we're actually in. Personally, I start to lose belly fat initially, but what I don't lose is body fat on my legs. My last competition season, this was very apparent. I lost a lot of weight all throughout my prep, but the last place I lost weight was in the back of my hamstrings and in my glutes. So it made my prep pretty difficult because I was shredded to the bone everywhere else, but in order to compete with the other competitors, I had to keep losing weight even more than usual. For sake of not keeping this video super long and keeping you guys in the grocery store for forever, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Hopefully this helps you guys understand more of what you can do as far as grocery shopping and how to actually target stubborn belly fat. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.